My wife avoids talking about the future, and it's starting to scare the hell out of me. I didn't think much of it at first. People go through phases. Stress, work, life. We've been together for 12 years, married for 8. We have a 6-year-old daughter who still thinks I can fix anything with duct tape and a hug. Life used to feel predictable. Safe. We had routines: Friday takeout, Sunday walks, arguing about what to watch and falling asleep halfway through anyway. Nothing dramatic. Nothing broken. But over the past few months, every time I bring up anything beyond next week, vacations, moving, even just fixing the kitchen, she shuts down. Not angry. Not defensive. Just gone. Let's not plan too far ahead, she says. It sounds harmless. Rational, even. But she says it like someone who knows something I don't. And I can't shake the feeling that whatever she's avoiding is already here. Looking back, I think the shift started long before I noticed. She became quieter. Not distant in the obvious way. She still cooked, still asked about my day, still laughed at our daughter's nonsense. But something underneath it all changed. Like she was playing a role she'd memorized. I ignored it. I told myself this is what long-term relationships look like. Comfort replaces excitement. Silence replaces curiosity. You don't question every mood swing after a decade together. But there were signs. She stopped talking about having another child. That used to be her dream. She stopped bringing up retirement plans, even though she used to obsess over them. She stopped arguing about anything meaningful. That last one should have scared me more. When someone stops fighting for a future, it's not peace. It's surrender. I remember one night I joked, "What, you don't see us as old and grumpy together anymore?" She smiled. Soft. Sad. "I just don't think that far anymore." I laughed it off. I wish I hadn't. The first real crack came from something stupid. A notification. Her phone lit up while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't even thinking about it. It just appeared. A name I didn't recognize. And a message preview that said, "Did you tell him yet?" My stomach dropped in a way I can't fully explain. Not like jealousy. Not even anger. More like recognition. Like some part of me had already been expecting this, quietly, in the background. I didn't open the message. I didn't touch her phone. I just sat there, staring at those 6 words, feeling something shift inside me. When she came out, I acted normal. Too normal. But I watched her. The way she checked her phone immediately. The way her expression changed, just for a second, before she locked it and looked at me. "What?" she asked. "Nothing," I said. But it wasn't nothing anymore. I started noticing everything after that. How she angled her phone away from me when texting. How she'd step outside to take certain calls. How she suddenly had errands that took longer than they should. None of it was concrete. Nothing I could point to and say, "This is it." But it added up. I hated the person I was becoming. Watching, analyzing, building quiet cases in my head like a paranoid detective. But I couldn't stop. One night, after putting our daughter to bed, I tried to bring up the future again. Something simple. "Hey, what do you think about maybe moving in a couple years? Somewhere quieter?" She froze. Not dramatically. Just a pause. A flicker. "I don't think that's a good idea," she said. "Why not?" "I just don't." No explanation. No discussion. That's when it hit me. It wasn't that she didn't want a future. It was that she didn't see one with me in it. The message stayed in my head. "Did you tell him yet?" It looped over and over, like a song I couldn't turn off. "Tell me what?" I started losing sleep. Lying awake next to her, listening to her breathe, wondering how long she'd been keeping something from me. Days passed. I said nothing. I think part of me was afraid that asking would make it real. Then one afternoon, she left her laptop open on the kitchen table. Again, I wasn't looking for anything. But there it was. An email thread. I shouldn't have read it. I know that. But I did. And the first line I saw was, "He deserves to know, but I don't know how to say it." My hands started shaking. I scrolled. And everything I thought I understood about my life started to fall apart. It wasn't just one email. It was dozens. Back and forth between her and him. The same name from the message. The tone wasn't just friendly. It was intimate. Familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. They talked about me. Not cruelly. Not mockingly. But like I was a problem to solve. "He's a good man," she wrote. "That's what makes this harder." Harder for what? I kept reading. There were references to meetings. To time spent together. To us. My vision blurred at some point, but I couldn't stop. And then I saw the line that made everything snap into place. "I can't keep pretending this is my life anymore." Pretending. My marriage. My family. Pretending. I closed the laptop and just sat there, staring at nothing, feeling like I'd just stepped out of my own body. I didn't confront her right away. I wish I could say I was calm and rational, but the truth is, I was scared. Scared of what she'd say. Scared of what it would mean. So I waited. 2 days of acting normal while everything inside me burned. Every time she smiled at me, I wondered if it was real. Every time she touched my arm, I felt this strange disconnect, like it belonged to someone else. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. After dinner, when our daughter was asleep, I asked, "Who is he?" She didn't even try to play dumb. She just looked at me, and I saw it. Relief. Like she'd been waiting for this moment. "I was going to tell you," she said quietly. "When?" I asked. She hesitated. "That's the problem. I didn't know how." That's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This was something she'd already chosen. Her name for it was complicated. I hated that word instantly. "There's nothing complicated about this," I said. "Are you having an affair?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she said, "I didn't mean for it to happen." Which is the closest thing to a yes I've ever heard. I felt this wave of anger rise up, but it was tangled with something else, something weaker. Fear. "How long?" I asked. "A year. A year. 12 months of lying. Of sleeping next to me. Of living this double life while I went to work, paid bills, read bedtime stories, thinking everything was fine." "Do you love him?" I asked, even though I didn't want to hear the answer. She looked down. "Yes." That word didn't just hurt. It hollowed me out. I wish I could say I reacted with dignity. I didn't. I raised my voice. I paced. I asked the same questions over and over, like the answers might change if I pushed hard enough. "How could you do this? Was any of it real? What about our daughter?" She cried. Quietly at first, then harder. But even in that moment, something about her felt distant. Like her grief wasn't fully here with me. "I never wanted to hurt you," she kept saying. That sentence made me angrier than anything else. Because it didn't matter what she wanted. She did. Eventually, I asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Are you leaving?" Silence. Then, "I don't know." That might have been worse than a yes. Because it meant she was still deciding. Like I was just one option. The next few days were a blur. We moved around each other like strangers sharing the same space. Conversations were minimal. Functional. "Did you pick her up? What's for dinner?" Nothing real. I kept thinking about the emails. About how long she'd been emotionally somewhere else while physically still here. That kind of betrayal is hard to explain. It's not just that she loved someone else. It's that she stopped choosing me long before I realized it. I started noticing how checked out she'd been for months. Maybe longer. All the little things I brushed off suddenly had meaning. And the worst part? I kept asking myself if I missed something obvious. If this was somehow my fault. If I could have prevented it. I know logically that's not how it works. But logic doesn't mean much when your life is unraveling. We eventually had the real conversation. The one where everything gets laid out. She told me his name. How they met. How it started as friendship, then something more. I hated how calm she sounded. Like she'd already processed all of this while I was just beginning. I didn't plan this, she said. But you didn't stop it, I replied. She didn't argue with that. That silence said more than any excuse could. Then she said something I still can't fully process. I don't know who I am anymore. I stared at her. You're my wife, I said. You're our daughter's mother. She shook her head. That's not all I am. That was the moment I realized. She wasn't just leaving me. She was leaving the life we built. Our daughter doesn't know. Not really. She knows something is wrong. Kids always do. She asks why Mom seems sad. Why we don't laugh as much. Why I sleep on the couch sometimes. We tell her we're figuring things out. It feels like a lie. Because the truth is, I think my wife already figured it out. She just hasn't said it out loud yet. Family started noticing too. Subtle questions. Concerned looks. We haven't told them. I don't even know how. Hey, by the way, the person I trusted most has been living a second life for a year. It sounds unreal even in my own head. Meanwhile, I go to work. I function. I smile when I have to. But inside, I feel like I'm watching my life from the outside. Like none of this is actually happening to me. She still avoids talking about the future. But now I understand why. Because any future she imagines doesn't include me. That realization changes everything. It makes every shared memory feel fragile. Every plan we ever made feel like it belonged to someone else. I've asked her if she wants to try and fix this. Therapy. Time. Anything. She says she doesn't know. Always that same answer. I don't know. It's amazing how much damage those 3 words can do. Because they leave you stuck. Not together. Not apart. Just suspended. And I'm starting to realize that staying in this limbo might be worse than losing her completely. I've thought about leaving. Packing a bag. Taking our daughter. Starting over somewhere else. But it's not that simple. Nothing about this is simple. I still love her. That's the part one hate admitting the most. Even after everything, some part of me still hopes she'll wake up one day and choose us again. But hope can be dangerous. Because it keeps you in places you probably shouldn't stay. We've started talking about next steps. Legal words. Practical things. It feels cold. Clinical. Like we're dismantling something that used to be alive. Sometimes I look at her and try to see the person I fell in love with. She's still there. But she's also someone else now. I've thought about leaving. Packing a bag. Taking our daughter. Starting over somewhere else. But it's not that simple. Nothing about this is simple. I still love her. That's the part one hate admitting the most. Even after everything, some part of me still hopes she'll wake up one day and choose us again. But hope can be dangerous. Because it keeps you in places you probably shouldn't stay. We've started talking about next steps. Legal words. Practical things. It feels cold. Clinical. Like we're dismantling something that used to be alive. Sometimes I look at her and try to see the person I fell in love with. She's still there. But she's also someone else now. I've thought about leaving. Packing a bag. Taking our daughter. Starting over somewhere else. But it's not that simple. Nothing about this is simple. I still love her. That's the part one hate admitting the most. Even after everything, some part of me still hopes she'll wake up one day and choose us again. But hope can be dangerous. Because it keeps you in places you probably shouldn't stay. We've started talking about next steps. Legal words. Practical things. It feels cold. Clinical. Like we're dismantling something that used to be alive. Sometimes I look at her and try to see the person I fell in love with. She's still there. But she's also someone else now. I don't have a clean ending. No resolution. No big lesson wrapped in a neat bow. Just this. If someone you love stops talking about the future, don't ignore it. Don't tell yourself it's just a phase. Sometimes it means they've already started building a future without you. I wish I had asked harder questions sooner. Paid closer attention. Trusted my instincts instead of dismissing them. But I also know this. You can do everything right and still lose someone. I don't know what happens next. Maybe we separate. Maybe she leaves. Maybe we try and fail. All I know is that the life I thought I had is gone. And now I'm left trying to figure out who I am without it. If you've been here before, you probably understand. If you haven't, I hope you never do.